Now, as with most conversations that we have that are in this sort of vein, I wanted to say that everything can change. These numbers, these statistics, these analyses, they can all change at the flip of a dime. And by the time tomorrow rolls around, these numbers might not actually be the same. However, the reason we're making this video is because we have to go out there and give some props to the Ottawa Senators. Oh my gosh, have the Sens been on a heater. And the thing is, I know you could go out there and say, like, what are you talking about, a heater? They just lost a 5-4 game in overtime to the Philadelphia Flyers in a game where they absolutely stunk if you look at the numbers. They let in 5 goals on a very small amount of shots. Matvei Michkov scored in overtime. Linus Ullmark did not look great. The Sens are coming off of a loss here. What are you talking about? And here's the thing. Numbers like these, statistics like these, you can look at a game like the game against Philadelphia and say that it could put the Sens in a bad light because they lost. But if you go out there and actually dive into some of the advanced analytics, you talk about some of the profiles of guys that are on this Ottawa Senators team, and you talk about some of the analytical breakdowns as to what's been happening lately, you get some really interesting conclusions. Now, part of the reason I'm even making this video is because of a tweet that I saw that made its way across my timeline yesterday from Brienne. And this goes out there and uses the MoneyPuck playoff odds to get a conversation going. Because MoneyPuck, at the time of the tweet's publication, which was about yesterday, they currently had Ottawa as the 5th best odds team to win the Stanley Cup. And if you scroll down, you look at the graphic included, NHL playoff odds. Stanley Cup odds right here. You had Carolina in first with a 9.8% chance, tied with Florida, 9.8%, New Jersey, 9.3%, Dallas, 9.2%, and the Ottawa Senators had an 8.4% chance of winning the Cup. Now, the funny part is, if you look at the make playoffs category, Ottawa does not have the 5th best odds at making the playoffs. Not by a long shot. There are a bunch of other teams that are a lot more up there in terms of the making the playoffs model. But in terms of winning the Cup, the Sens have a higher chance odds than many of these other teams. Now, you can say that it's due to the divisional alignments. It's the standard format of the NHL playoff structure that makes this sort of anomaly possible. Like, hey, for example, Minnesota has a 97.4% chance of making the playoffs, but only an 8.1% chance of winning the Cup. Ottawa has a higher winning Cup odds, but they have 10 fewer percent of making the playoffs in their odds. Why is that? Well, it's because the Wild are in a division that allows them to do well, and they can be one of the top teams. Ottawa is in a different division with other teams that are more competitive and more competitive relative to them. So that's sort of why the numbers are all over the place, and some people would go out there and look at that, say, okay, MoneyPuck is so weird. How do the Sens have the 5th highest odds of winning the Cup, but one of the lower end odds of actually making the playoffs? However, we've spoken about this in the past. The reason MoneyPuck has the breakdowns that they do is because of their advanced analytical models. You can thank the defensive system for this. CSIC goes out there and says, the Ottawa Senators have a top 5 ranking of expected goals against percentage. Another reply says this: imagine the odds when Sanderson starts playing up to his usual standard and when the Sens have fewer goaltending catastrophes. Yeah, looking at you, Linus Ullmark, unfortunately. Kind of funny how Ullmark and Swayman have both been bad this season. I was going to say terrible. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh. Bad is the right way to put it. Some other replies go out there and talk about team stats. They talk about Travis Green. They talk about how the team is still inconsistent, but over the season they will tighten up. Trust Coach Green. The team seems more focused compared to under DJ Country Club. And here is the thing. If you head over to the Atlantic Division standings and you see where the Sens are, they are in a pretty good spot. They are 5th overall, but they are 1 point removed from 3rd in the division. And if you sort by points percentage, that number actually goes up a little bit higher. The Sens have been a strong team, and the funny part is, Jake Sanderson isn't even playing as well as he could. He's supposed to be the top D-man on the team, but as we had talked about in a video a few days ago, when you go over some of the best performers week by week in the NHL, you've got like Thomas Chabot and Nick Jensen really performing well. You won't see it much on the score sheet per se. I mean, Thomas Chabot, right? Top defenseman on the team making $8 million. He's at 11 points in 16 games. That's not amazing. It's okay. He's on pace for 50 points. But this guy has legitimately been playing some of the best defensive hockey he has ever played. And a lot of the other Senators guys have been doing the same things. Sure, the numbers speak for themselves on the forward side. Timmy Stu, 21 points, 16 games. A little puck to the face is not going to stop him. Brady Tkachuk, 19 points, 16 games. Drake Batherson is a point-per-game guy. Josh Norris, 12 points. Claude Giroux, 12 points. But this team is just clicking. And aside the inconsistent goaltending, this team has been a total monster. And sure, I get it, this is all great. It's good to see the Sens finally doing well, with a coaching staff that seems to know what they're doing. Shout out to Travis Green, and a group of guys that are motivated and willing to learn, trying to improve, and playing some of the best hockey they've ever played. But does that mean they have the 5th best odds of winning the Stanley Cup? Probably not, but it is interesting to note. I will say there are some comments on the Ottawa Senators subreddit that go out there and try to explain and rationalize this a bit more. Take a look at this. Middle hair went out there and said that MoneyPuck's playoff model is always very wonky. I'd imagine that the Senators' chances went up due to playing another great game and their model updating the Sens' analytics. Because by their model, the Ottawa Senators are easily a top 10 team and borderline a top 5 team. Another reply talks about how this model is hot for Ottawa mainly through their possession stats, expected goals percentage, number of unblocked shots for percentage, and the share of power play time. The Sens' shooting percentage and save percentage are holding them back. The MoneyPuck model also biases towards recent games, so these last 3 games where they've controlled the flow of play is going to heavily inflate their predicted results. MoneyPuck expects Ottawa to win the majority of games from here on out as long as they keep playing like that. Take our foot off the gas pedal and brace yourself for those odds to come back down to earth. And this user right here, NapKing24, does explain it pretty well. We like to talk about this relatively often when it comes up because some people do get confused by the MoneyPuck model. Obviously, it's not gospel. Just because it's written out here that the Sens have the 5th best odds at the Cup, it doesn't mean that they're going to be a Final 4 or maybe even a Final 8 contending team. But it does indicate that at the moment they have been playing some of the best hockey in the league if you just go by maybe the recent week's worth of play. Now, I'm making this video on this very nice Saturday morning because I wanted to ask what's next. The Sens are playing off against the Carolina Hurricanes later today, and I feel like this will be the litmus test. Carolina has been one of the best teams in the NHL this season, and they play a high-tempo, fast, quick, and motivated style of game. Can Travis Green and the Ottawa Senators rein in that storm and maintain a pace that allows them to be ranked as one of the best cup odd teams in the league? Is it possible? We'll see later today. But for now, if you're an Ottawa Senators fan, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this team going out there and doing what they've been doing? Admittedly, I will say that things may change by the time tomorrow rolls around or by the time the game against Carolina ends up finishing. If the Sens totally sucked, then okay, their numbers are going to go down. They're not going to be ranked near the top 5 anymore. But with things in place the way they are at this moment, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments, how you feel about Ottawa, their playoff odds, what you're seeing out of this team, and just how well they've been performing as a whole. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.